Hi, I'm Dr. T, and welcome to my office. Let's talk cofactors. Okay, you're asking, what are we talking about? Okay, so when you have a protein, specifically we're talking enzymes, but in this case it doesn't necessarily specifically have to be an enzyme. Not all proteins are just amino acids. So, the classic thought, you got a bunch of amino acids, you string them together, boom, you got a protein. Maybe you have a couple of subunits that got some quaternary structure, yay. Except for the fact that that's not it. Sometimes the structure of the protein, it's essential for it to have metal ions attached into it in order to hold its shape. Additionally, there could be small organic molecules that are utilized by the protein to do whatever it needs to do. Potentially, the active site might need some help by an organic molecule or a metal ion or something. All of these things together are known as cofactors. They're part of the protein that is not amino acids. Depending on what that particular cofactor is doing, there's further subdivisions that I'm not going to go into in this particular video, but do realize there are further subdivisions here. Now, some of these cofactors you can make. There are certain small molecules the cells within humans or different organisms can manufacture with no big deal. Yay. Obviously, if it's a metal ion, you need to acquire those metal ions from somewhere, and typically when we're talking dietary, those metal ions are comprised of what we would call minerals. So, hey, it's mineral water, rich in minerals, means it has presumably, the ions that you need. So, for instance, enzymes dealing with adenosine triphosphate typically invoke a magnesium ion from time to time. So, hey, you're going to need to consume some magnesium ions. Great, minerals. When the cofactor is an organic molecule, and that organic molecule is one that you can't produce, then either that molecule or one of its precursors would, of course, be essential for your diet. That's usually what we call vitamins. There are a couple of cases of vitamins that aren't actually cofactors, vitamin D being the operative example here. But most of your vitamins are going to eventually turn into cofactors. Okay, so let's talk about some vitamins. Actually, let's just kind of go through the list. So vitamin A, retinol or beta carotene, and the reason I'm saying or is that for a vitamin, because your body requires a certain essential product, as long as you get something that your cells can turn into that particular product, it's good enough. So a vitamin doesn't have to be one particular molecule. It has to be any of a class of molecules that your cells can manufacture what they need from it. So vitamin A, actually the second one to be produced because marketing, or the second one to be discovered, I should say. They were all being produced for a long time. The quintessential version is retinol. Obviously, beta-carotene can be produced into retinol through your cells. This is used by your eyes as the actual light-recepting molecule. It is used by other parts of your body, which is why if you don't have sufficient amounts of vitamin A, then you go blind and then you die. Vitamin A deficiency is actually the world's leading cause of preventable blindness. Yeah, moving on. The B vitamins, which were the first ones to be discovered, were originally thought to be one vitamin. It took us a while. It took us a while to figure out what we had because they're all commonly associated with each other, and thus it's easy to think that, they're not different. But turns out there's a bunch of ones that are clumped together quite often, most of which you get from plants. Not all, there's one major exception on that list. So let's just kind of run down the list. By the way, the weird numbering is, once again, hey, we think we know. No, we don't. Thus, weird numbers. Okay, vitamin B1, the first one we really finally isolated as itself. Thiamine, this is used in the catabolism of sugars, amino acids, etc. It's going to be an enzyme cofactor. By the way, the fact is amine is where we get the name vitamin. Originally, they were vital amines. We thought it was an amine, and we thought it had vital force. Okay, there's no vital force. That was basically dead by that point. But we thought, hey, they're all amines. No, they're not. And I should point out that with vitamins, they are essential in one's diet, but you don't need a surplus of them. It's kind of like having a screwdriver or a hammer. If you are doing something that requires a screwdriver or a hammer, you need one. 2 might be nice. 3, great. 5, Where do I put them? 2,000. I can't move. I'm full of screwdrivers all over the place. Yeah. So when it comes to vitamins, you need a minimum amount. In the early 20th century, vitamin deficiency was a major problem. Diets were kind of pathetic. Nowadays, okay, some people definitely have vitamin deficiency issues. Within developed and relatively rich countries, that's not usually a problem. It is occasionally, but it's not usually a problem. That said, things like vitamin A deficiency, leading cause of preventable blindness around the world, because in some places there's not enough money to feed the kids a carrot every now and then. Yeah. Moving back to the B vitamins. Okay, vitamin B1, once again the thiamine. Vitamin B2, riboflavin. Fun word to say, isn't it? That one is going to be turned into a coenzyme that helps with the transfer of electrons in the electron transfer chain, that does the final conversion of the energy from carbohydrates and fatty acids and really everything to adenosine triphosphate. So loading that up. Vitamin B3 is niacin. This is going to be converted to NAD, NADP, which is an electron carrier. So once again, a cofactor. This one would be probably better described as a coenzyme, which is a subset of cofactor of things that move around. Basically, they're a substrate that gets recycled. Go figure. Vitamin B5, by the way, you notice there's no B4. We thought there was a B4, but oh, nope, that wasn't a thing. Panthoic acid. This is a precursor to coenzyme A, which is part of the metabolism of carbohydrates. We will see that again later. Vitamin B6 has a couple of different names. Proxidine, proxidial. Once again, more energy metabolism. Vitamin B7, biotin. This is going to be used quite often in the synthesis of fatty acids and gluconeogenesis. This is using or moving carbonates around, or moving carbon dioxide and actually sticking it onto molecules. It's a rather interesting thing. You wouldn't think that animal cells can do it, but we can. Vitamin B9, folate. Usually this gets separated. It's called folic acid. This is used in the modification of DNA. This is essential for DNA replication, especially if you got rapid cell division. So there are drugs that target cancer cells by restricting folate. Additionally, if you're in a situation where you're growing cells a lot, aka you're a fetus growing up, you need lots of folate, I should say. Because of this, folic acid / folate are prescribed to pregnant women to make sure their children, while they are growing inside of them, have plenty of vitamin B9 for healthy growth. Typically, you don't need to overdo the vitamins, but they're cheap. They usually don't hurt you, and vitamin deficiencies, especially a folate deficiency during initial development, is such a big deal that, hey, this is cheap. Just take it. We want to cut any corners. Make sure there is no chance that you're deficient on this one. Vitamin B12 is a bit of an interesting one. Yeah, you notice how we jumped a lot of numbers? That's because, oh, we've got... No, we don't. Yeah. Vitamin B12 is cobalamin. It actually contains a cobalt in it. And this is somewhat unique in that you don't get it from plants. If you're a vegetarian, or I should say vegan, you are pretty much fine so far with all the vitamins. These are all coming from plants until you hit B12. In this case, this is produced by bacteria. Plants typically don't utilize this. They go through other chemical pathways to get their job done. And thus, you need to acquire the bacteria. Now, the problem is you can't usually just eat the bacteria straight. You either need to chemically process the bacteria to purify out the cobalamin, which you can do, and which you can go to the store and buy chemically processed bacteria. Yum. I mean, it is basically just cobalamin, you know. Or it needs to bioaccumulate within animal products. So vitamin B12 is typically consumed from meat, dairy, etc. So if you're a vegan, you do need to go grab yourself a vitamin B12 supplement. Those are going to come from bacteria typically, so you don't have to worry about, you know, actually consuming animal when you're not, but you do have to worry about vitamin B12 deficiency. Okay, that's the B's. We're finally done with B's. We now started actually naming them after different letters of the alphabet. Vitamin C is going to be ascorbic acid. This is a reducing agent that's used to mitigate oxidative damage, as well as the modification of proline in collagen, which is its kind of dreadfully essential role. So I've been talking about vitamins and have neglected to discuss the most common or easiest way of thinking about them, their distinction between different clumps. First, we have the fat-soluble vitamins. Those would be vitamins A, D, E, and K. These are ones that are hydrophobic and therefore are going to prefer to hang out with the fats. And you have water-soluble vitamins, which are going to be your B vitamins, as well as vitamin C, and these are hydrophilic. For your water-soluble vitamins, if you consume an excess amount of them, the kidneys will simply flush them out, number one. Fat-soluble vitamins and overconsumption can lead to problems. Polar bear liver is known to having so much vitamin A in it that it will cause vitamin A poisoning if you eat a polar bear liver. I have no idea why you're eating polar bear liver, but don't, for that and other reasons, to not eat polar bear liver. Moving on, vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin. This one is actually really an interesting one in that it's an exception to most everything I've said. This one's not really used as a cofactor. It's used more in a communication situation, and your body can actually manufacture vitamin D. Like, why is it a vitamin? Well, the manufacturing process is a little bit quirky. It starts out life as cholesterol. Then to break one of its bonds, it requires a photon of ultraviolet light. So, of course, it moves to the outside of your skin, or if you're a furry critter like a polar bear, it's excreted into the oils on your skin, and then you groom yourself and lick the oils back on your skin. Thankfully, we don't have to do that. It just goes to the surface layer of our skin. We go outside, get some sunlight, and boom, we have vitamin D. Of course, you may not get enough sunlight, you may not produce enough vitamin D, and thus, you'll have a deficit of vitamin D. Vitamin E, this one almost wasn't considered a vitamin because your body holds onto it so well that as long as your mother has consumed some of it before your conception, you won't get a vitamin E deficiency. You actually have to go for like 2 or more generations without any vitamin E, and it's very common. This one is used for electron scavenging and is helpful for maintaining cell functions. Vitamin K is an interesting one. The only one that's actual letter means something. All of the other ones were literally just A, B, C, D, E. Vitamin K is K for clotting, and you're like, it's K for clotting in German. So, yeah. This is a cofactor used by the blood platelets to go through the clotting process. This also has another rather interesting story, as there is a drug warfarin that competes with vitamin K, and there will be more about this when we talk about enzyme inhibition. But needless to say, another vitamin that is, of course, essential for consumption. With that said, have a wonderful day, and we will jump on to more enzymes in later videos.